Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're strapping in for a really high-speed look into the graphics of Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, it's definitely got everyone talking.
Absolutely. And you listening, you've likely been blown away by the trailers, right? And you're probably wondering, what's actually making it look so good?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you follow the tech breakdowns from places like Digital Foundry. Well, you're in the right place. We're going deeper than just, wow, that looks nice.
Exactly. The hype around GTA 6's visuals is, well, it's massive, and for good reason. Today we want to unpack how the actual tech innovations Rockstar seems to be pulling off here.
Right.
So we'll be looking at detailed analyses of those trailers, insights from the gaming community, Reddit's been buzzing, and of course any official word from Rockstar themselves.
Okay, let's dive straight in then. The first thing that hits you is just, wow, the visual leap, it feels huge compared to GTA 5.
It really does. And it's not just like more stuff on screen. It feels like a fundamental shift in how they're rendering the world itself. Well, the lighting and shadows, for instance, they look much more complex, more natural. It creates this really believable atmosphere.
Yeah, I noticed.
And the characters, the skin textures, the hair physics, even the way clothes hang and move.
Yeah.
It's a whole other level of detail.
And the water, it looks so dynamic, not static like in older games. The movement, the reflections.
Absolutely. The water rendering is a big one. It looks like it has proper physics now, and the reflections are, well, they're using some advanced techniques there.
Like ray tracing.
Exactly. Ray-traced reflections, especially on things like glass and, yeah, water. It adds this layer of realism we haven't quite seen on this scale in an open-world console game before.
Mhm.
And just the sheer density of everything,
Mm.
the amount of detail packed into every scene, it makes the world feel so much more solid and lived in.
Okay, and here's something really crucial. Rockstar actually confirmed that Trailer 2 was captured entirely in-game on a PS5.
Yeah, that's a huge piece of info.
That's pretty significant, isn't it? It means this isn't just some pre-rendered target video. This is supposedly achievable on the consoles people actually own.
Precisely. The fact that it's running on a standard PS5, covering both gameplay snippets and cutscenes, gives us a solid baseline. It shows a serious level of optimization already, and it sets expectations for what players might actually get.
So if it is running on a PS5, how are they hitting that super sharp, detailed look, especially on 4K displays? I know Digital Foundry dug into this. Resolution and upscaling seem key.
That's right. Their analysis of Trailer 2 is fascinating. They reckon the game's rendering internally at 1440p on the base PS5.
Okay, 1440p.
Yeah, specifically 2560 by 1152 because of that wider aspect ratio. And then it's being upscaled to a 4K output, hence the cinematic black bars top and bottom.
And the upscaling tech itself, they have a theory, right? Sounds familiar.
Yeah, the evidence they found, like certain artifacts and really fine details, distant text, for example, it points towards a spatial upscaler pretty similar to AMD's FSR, specifically the first generation FSR1.
FSR1.
It has a specific look sometimes, and they spotted those telltale signs. It's like intelligently stretching the 1440p image to fit a 4K screen.
Okay, so why FSR1? Why not push for native 4K? What does that suggest about Rockstar's priorities here?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The most likely answer is it's a strategic trade-off.
Trade-off.
Yeah, they decided to use the PS5's power budget for other demanding features, probably that advanced ray tracing we mentioned, rather than raw pixel count.
Right.
Using FSR1 lets them hit that 4K output target while freeing up resources for the complex lighting and reflections. It suggests they're prioritizing atmosphere and, cutting-edge effects over pure native resolution.
Now, the PS5 Pro rumors.
Yeah.
How does that potentially fit into this picture?
Right, the Pro. If it materializes, it could offer a definite step up. It's rumored to feature Sony's own upscaling tech, PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution.
PSSR. Also based on AMD tech, I heard.
Yeah, it's built on FSR principles, but expected to be more advanced. It uses temporal data information from previous frames to reconstruct a sharper, potentially cleaner 4K image.
So better quality from maybe even the same or a lower internal resolution.
Possibly, yeah. Less aliasing, maybe less blur. It could mean the Pro delivers a noticeably improved image even if the internal rendering isn't drastically higher than the base PS5. It really points to sophisticated upscaling being central to console performance going forward.
And the forums, like Reddit, they're speculating about even newer tech for the Pro.
Oh yeah, there's chatter about PSSR 2.0, maybe a hybrid based on like FSR 4. If that's ready by the time GTA 6 launches, the Pro could offer an even bigger visual advantage. More clarity, maybe better performance. It's all speculation for now, of course.
All right, so resolution and upscaling are complex but key.
Yeah.
Let's,
It seems likely. There are a couple of big reasons. First, those computationally heavy effects, especially ray-traced global illumination RTGI, which we need to talk more about, that stuff eats performance.
Okay.
And second, historically, Rockstar's console GTA releases have always favored pushing visual boundaries over hitting 60 FPS. It seems to be their philosophy for these huge open worlds.
So even with PS5 and Series X power, hitting 60 FPS with these graphics is just too big an ask without gutting the visuals.
Pretty much. The sheer complexity, the world density, the AI, the physics, plus these advanced rendering features. Achieving a stable 60 FPS without noticeable downgrades elsewhere seems, well, unlikely on current-gen base consoles.
Any hope for the Pro maybe hitting higher? Like 40 FPS?
There's been some talk maybe a 40 FPS mode on VRR displays could be possible on the Pro, but a full 60 FPS with this level of fidelity, probably not. The focus really does seem to be on creating the most visually stunning, immersive world possible, and 30 FPS seems to be the price for that on console.
Okay, let's talk about that RTGI ray-traced global illumination. Sounds super technical.
Yeah.
Break it down for us. What's it actually doing for the visuals?
Right. RTGI is a game changer for lighting. Essentially, it simulates how light really behaves in the real world, how it bounces off surfaces indirectly.
Indirectly.
Yeah, think about sunlight coming through a window. It hits the floor, then bounces off the floor to subtly light up the walls and ceiling, right? Traditional game lighting often fakes that indirect bounce. RTGI calculates it much more accurately using ray tracing.
Ah, okay. So more realistic light spread.
Exactly. It makes both bright, sunlit areas and dim interiors feel much more natural and cohesive. The light just behaves more realistically.
Any specific examples from the trailers that really show it off?
Oh, definitely. Look at those night scenes with police cars. See how the red and blue flashing lights realistically illuminate the nearby walls and ground? That sort of dynamic color bleeding and the soft glow on surfaces? That's RTGI.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And what Digital Foundry found impressive was how stable it looked. Sometimes these software GI solutions on console can have flickering or weird artifacts, but this looked really solid, suggesting a very polished implementation. It's clearly fundamental to the game's whole look and feel.
Okay, so RTGI handles the overall light bounces. What about shiny stuff? Reflections. Ray tracing is big there too, right?
Yep, absolutely. GTA 6 is using real-time ray trace reflections across all sorts of surfaces. Car paint, potholes, windows, you name it. Smooth surfaces, rough surfaces.
And it looked particularly good on glass and water. Better even than the first trailer.
Noticeably better, yeah. Especially reflections on partially transparent materials. That was a big step up in trailer 2.
I remember seeing like beer bottles and you could see proper reflections in the curved glass. It looked amazing.
That's the kind of detail we're talking about. And car windows, sunglasses, it all adds up to make the scene feel more grounded. It looks like they're probably using a hybrid system, though.
Hybrid.
Meaning they likely combine ray tracing for accuracy where it matters most, but maybe fall back on older techniques like screen space reflections, SSR, for efficiency in other areas. SSR is faster but has limitations. It can only reflect what's already on screen, basically.
Right, I've seen those weird SSR artifacts where reflections get cut off at the edge of the screen.
Exactly. So a hybrid approach balances quality and performance, but there are moments that look like pure hardware ray tracing.
Like the car mirrors.
Yes. The wing mirrors showing reflections of things behind the car, stuff not actually visible in the main camera view. That's a classic example of what true ray-traced reflections can do. It's computationally expensive, but adds that extra layer of realism. Shows how advanced their system is.
Okay, let's zoom in on the people. The characters look, well, frankly, incredible compared to previous GTAs. What's going on technically there?
Huge improvements across the board. The character models themselves are way higher fidelity, more polygons, much more realistic skin shaders, and the animations, especially facial animations, seem far more expressive.
And the hair. Lucia's curly hair looked amazing.
Right. That points to a proper strand-based hair system. Instead of modeling hair as flat cards or clumps, it simulates individual strands, allowing for much more natural movement and physics, especially for complex styles like curls.
It really made a difference.
Definitely. And the skin rendering, too, the way light hits it, the subtle details like, sweat glistening. It's very advanced. Plus, clothing physics see improve baggier clothes move and fold more naturally.
And someone mentioned arm hair.
Haha, yeah.
Yes.
Digital Foundry pointed out visible, realistically rendered arm hair on some characters. That's the kind of, next-level detail they're aiming for.
Wow. But wasn't there a slight catch? Something about optimization for hair in some shots.
That's a sharp catch.
Mm.
Yes, they did notice some subtle signs that maybe in certain specific shots, they mentioned one of Jason in trailer 2, the hair might be rendered at a slightly lower resolution than the face.
To save performance.
Most likely, yeah. Rendering strand hair at full resolution all the time is incredibly demanding. It's probably a smart optimization, a balancing act to keep things running smoothly without being too noticeable most of the time.
Makes sense. It's always a balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, shifting from characters to the world itself, it just feels so much more tangible. What contributes to that?
A huge part of it is the materials. The attention to detail in how different surfaces look and react to light is remarkable.
Like wet roads versus dry concrete?
Exactly. Or the specific shine on polished metal versus, say, the rough texture of brick. Or even seeing the weave in carbon fiber panels. These material properties make everything feel more real.
I also spotted things like tiny cracks on signs, stuff that makes the world feel aged and authentic.
Yes, those little imperfections sell the reality of the world. It's not perfectly clean and computer generated. And the light interaction is key, how it diffuses softly on matte surfaces like sand, but creates sharp highlights on glossy things like fancy dresses or car bonnets.
Small details, too, like condensation on bottles.
Yeah, even tiny things like condensation or the way liquid sloshes inside a container. It all adds to this incredible level of visual fidelity.
It's also fascinating just comparing Trailer 1 and Trailer 2. Digital Foundry definitely saw an evolution there, right?
Oh, for sure. Their analysis showed clear technical progress between the two. Ray tracing, particularly those transparency reflections we talked about, seemed more refined and prominent in the second trailer.
And the hair rendering, too.
Yeah, improvements there as well. More variety, more realistic movement. And like you said earlier, the community on Reddit really picked up on it too, describing the jump as pretty substantial.
It makes you wonder what else they've tweaked under the hood since then. Releasing higher quality trailer versions suggests they want us to pixel peep, doesn't it?
That's a great point. It allows for that close scrutiny, letting people see the subtle stuff that gets lost in compression. It definitely points to an ongoing iterative process where they're constantly pushing the tech.
So pulling back a bit, let's talk generational leap. GTA 5 came out, over a decade ago on PS3 to 360. How big a jump are we actually talking about here for GTA 6?
Oh, it's looking like a monumental jump. We're seeing the full implementation of physically based rendering, or PBR, which means materials and light interact way more realistically.
Right.
Then there's the real-time physically simulated water we discussed, much improved vehicle physics and damage models, more dynamic weather and time-of-day systems, smarter NPCs, and just that massive increase in environmental detail and interactivity.
It sounds like they're really aiming for photorealism on console, maybe even matching high-end PC games.
That certainly seems to be the goal, pushing console visuals to a place they haven't been before.
You had a quick comparison chart in mind, didn't you?
Yep.
Lay it on us, GTA 5 versus what we expect from GTA 6.
Okay, quick rundown. Engine. GTA 5 used Rage 7. GTA 6 is using a heavily enhanced Rage, likely Rage 9. Lighting. Traditional methods in 5 versus RTGI in 6. Reflections. Mostly SSR in 5 versus a ray tracing SSR hybrid in 6. Water. Mesh-based in 5 versus physically simulated in 6. Characters. More stylized in 5 versus highly detailed realistic skin, strand hair in 6. Physics. Euphoria in 5 versus an enhanced Euphoria with better vehicle stuff in 6.
Wow, okay, that really spills out the difference. Now, performance across the different consoles. We know PS5 and the Series X are likely 30 FPS, 1440p upscaled. What about the Series S?
Right, so PS5 and Series X looking like 30 FPS, upscaled 4K from 1440p, probably FSR1 style upscaling, ray tracing likely included.
And the PS5 Pro.
Potential for better visuals via PSSR, maybe higher internal res, maybe more stable frame rate, enhanced ray tracing. Still speculative, though.
Okay, the Series S then, the less powerful one.
That's where we'll likely see the biggest compromises. Still aiming for 30 FPS, probably, but likely at a lower internal resolution, maybe sub 1080p. And ray tracing might be TED entirely. Upscaling method is a bit of a question mark there, too.
And forget about Switch 2 or current PC handhelds running this well.
Yeah, Digital Foundry seemed pretty skeptical given the sheer fidelity and, importantly, the CPU demands of a world this complex. It seems unlikely they could offer a satisfactory experience.
And driving all this is Rockstar's own engine, Rage. It's been around, but clearly it's evolved massively.
Absolutely. Rage, Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, is their secret sauce for these huge open worlds. It gets significant upgrades with each major title.
So what's new in the Rage powering GTA 6, besides the rendering stuff?
Well, we expect that physically simulated water is a big engine-level change. Improved physics, better vehicle deformation. Under the hood, support for modern APIs like DirectX 12 and Vulkan for PC is almost certain, and potentially more use of procedural generation for some world details, helping to create that density. Rage is just built from the ground up for these kinds of massive, interactive, physics-driven worlds.
Okay, so let's try and bring it all together. We're looking at a truly massive graphical leap in GTA 6. Key takeaways are things like ray tracing for super realistic light and reflections,
Right, RTGI and ray trace reflections are huge.
clever upscaling, likely FSR1 style on base consoles, maybe PSSR on Pro, to get sharp 4K output from lower rendering resolutions.
Yep, balancing fidelity and performance.
Incredibly detailed characters, hair, materials, environments, all powered by a significantly upgraded RAID engine.
Exactly.
And the trade-off, at least on console, seems pretty clear. A 30 frames per second target to make all that visual magic happen.
Precisely. It's a choice prioritizing that immersive, stunning visual experience above all else, it seems.
And hopefully, for you listening, this deep dive has given you a clearer picture of the tech behind those jaw-dropping trailers. It's not just smoke and mirrors. It's some serious engineering pushing console hardware.
Which leads to maybe one last thought to chew on. Given what we already see, what other visual or technical surprises might the final game hold? Things we haven't even guessed at yet.
Good question.
And maybe more broadly, how will GTA 6's graphical bar influence where open-world games go next? What will player expectations be after this release is definitely something the community will be discussing for a long time.